Washington Post casting aside problems that the United States is facing right now to focus on a group supposedly suffering under President Trump. They are former Obama staffers.
Yeah, the Washington Post with this headline, "A dagger in my heart. Obama alums struggle to adjust to a Trumpian world."
All right, join us now with reaction. Contributor for The Hill and author of Government Gone Wild, Kristin Tate. Kristin, thanks so much for coming on this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. What is it that you take issue with in this article particularly?
This is such a clear example of the Washington Post being so out of touch with ordinary Americans. The vast majority of working Americans in this country couldn't care less about how former Obama officials are feeling. We don't care if they're sad or upset or angry. Hillary Clinton lost the election in November was a repudiation of Obama and the Washington elite. But these journalists who work at the Post, they are so entrenched in the Beltway and in their little D.C. bubble that Washington elite is all they know. And I don't think there's been any real effort to get to know or understand people who live in the middle of the country in states like, Wisconsin, Michigan, even Kentucky. The attitude among a lot of these journalists seems to be that the middle America doesn't seem worth getting to know. And I think it's this smug attitude and sanctimonious way of looking at Americans that caused the political eruption that we saw in November.
A lot of those states that Hillary Clinton did not go to at the end of the election, we could also add that into it. Now look at this quote. This is from the piece itself. Tells you a lot. It's, quote, "Ensconced in think tanks in Washington and New York or in the private sector on both coasts, the Obama Alumni Network has become a diaspora of the disappointed as Trump tries to make good on his promises to upend much of what they had worked to accomplish." And you know what sticks out to me in that particular quote? Where it talks about ensconced in think tanks in Washington and New York. Because you're right. I mean, they don't have the jobs like a normal person has.
Right.
So incredibly out of touch. Only 32% of Americans today trust the mainstream media. And that is because middle America doesn't see their own values reflected in the media. I mean, do these journalists really think someone who lives in Wichita is going to care about how Obama officials are feeling? We want to hear about things like tax reform and, repealing and replacing Obamacare. This is a big distraction, but I guess I'm not that surprised because this is the Washington Post we're talking about, and they have become so flagrant in their bias that they don't even try to hide it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why anybody's really that surprised. I mean, President Trump is just the dead polar opposite of what President Obama was, and there's a reason that he got elected. What I think is so interesting about the article, though, is that it's Obama's legacy that we're talking about. He's out there buying $8 million houses and partying with Richard Branson, having the time of his life, yet all these people are so miserable. But it's his legacy. He doesn't seem to mind that much. He's not that upset.
Right. No, I know. And I mean, I think what I really take away from this article, though, is just the fact that the Washington Post is really losing not just their credibility, but their influence, right? I mean, no one's going to read an article like this and say, wow, this is really unbiased journalism. The Washington Post, they're not changing any minds because they're really pandering to the far left at this point. And I think most of the people who read that outlet and other ones like the New York Times, they're already to the far left. Yeah. So I really don't think they're changing any minds or hearts with pieces like this.
I think some of these Obama staffers should get out of these think tanks and then get a job in the real world.
I'm all for that.
Doing something like that.
Then they don't get the big fat pension.
Yeah. Thank you,
so much,
Kristin.
Thanks, guys.